Okay, so we don't want to take up too much more time. Our guest speaker today is going to be Major General Ferrell. Retired. So,
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Thanks for having me here today. I cannot tell you how wonderful it is when you're retired to come back home, if you will. And by home, I mean anywhere where there's guardsmen around. And it's such a privilege to be here, and I really appreciate it. I'm going to start off by saying I am so excited to see the diverse group in here, including men. The one thing that I will say, and I'll get back to this later, is women, we cannot be empowered without the men in our lives, period. Okay? And so, again, I'll come back to that a little bit later. But so I'm very excited to see in a room where we're looking at how to empower women, how women can empower themselves, that we have our male partners in the room with us. So that's phenomenal. I want to talk for a little bit, but then I'm going to open it up for some open dialogue because I really want to hear from you guys and some of the things you want to think about. But let me ask you a question. When men are looking for the next step, a promotion, a pay raise, something else to do in their work lives, what do you think is the number one barrier for men taking that next step? Anyone, just throw some stuff out. Say again? Boy, she nailed it. Opportunity. When men are looking for the next step, the only thing that prevents them from wanting and doing and pursuing is if there's no opportunity. Okay? Now, what about women? When women are looking at the next step, the next opportunity, what do you think is their number one barrier? I heard something over here which is true. But men have children too, right? Okay. So children, what else? What else prevents women from taking that next step, whatever it might be? And it's different from the males. I'm sorry? Okay, leadership attitude, okay. What else? You're throwing some, this is time, okay. Confident, boy, you're getting, what? Who are you? The number one thing that keeps women from pursuing their dreams is self-doubt, lack of confidence. Why is that? Why do men not doubt themselves, but women do? I mean, sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes we got to rein the dudes in, right? Chill out, guy, you're a little overconfident. But you very seldom have to do that for the ladies. You do on occasion, but so why do ladies let their doubt of themselves, whether it's work, personality, ability, skill set, why is that? Why does that prevent ladies from taking that next step? Where do we get it from? Culture. A lot of it's culture, right? Because we are the ones, I mean, we're good at what we do. Boy, we can raise those babies. We can discipline, right? We got the schedule at home taken care of. Our house is organized. We know when every dentist appointment is. We know how to change a diaper. You hand that to the husband, and sometimes they're like, woo. And they never learn because we don't let them, right? Because that's what we're good at. That's what we're going to do. But in the workplace, why can't we easily transfer not only those skill sets, which we do, but that confidence to the workplace? You know, I'm a jet engine mechanic. I don't know how to do something, but I'm going to learn, and I can learn really fast, and I can do it, you know, just as good as, because not everyone's born to be a jet engine mechanic, right? Not everyone's born to be a mom either. But those tasks that you have to learn to do to get ahead, you know, you sometimes do it real well. But so you're working in your job, you're doing great, you're loving it, and you hear that there's an opportunity in the next shop over, something you've always wanted to do. And yet sometimes as ladies we'll go, I don't know. You know, what if I'm not good at it? What if the hours are different? What if I don't like, you know, Joe and Jane in that shop? What if I can't do it? And if you're thinking that, then sometimes you just don't do it. So you guys have heard and read of Simon Sinek. You know, he's kind of a leadership motivator, but he tells a story, and I'm going to repeat it. It's kind of interesting. The human brain cannot comprehend the negative. Here you go. What? The human brain cannot comprehend the negative. Don't look in the back of the room. Don't let the elephant starve. Don't hit that tree while you're skiing. The negative that you're thinking of, you can't not do it. You're going to do it. Because the brain translates that to there's a tree. That's your focus. If you're skiing, you're going to hit that tree. So what do skiers do? You know, they're going to, how do they not hit most of them? How do they not hit the trees, right? They're skiing, well, they focus on the path where there are no trees. Just like when you're learning to drive a car, you don't look right here as you're driving. You look up there, right? You focus on the path. Because if you focus on the path, you're going to keep following down. If you focus on don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, your brain's going to have you hit the tree. And so when we practice self-doubt, when we say, I don't know if I can do it, the brain is going to not allow you to do it. So when I say it can't comprehend the negative, what I mean is it can't turn a negative into a positive. You know what I'm saying? And so as we are looking at opportunities and looking at chances and whatever else we have to do, we have to turn it into a positive. You know, it's not, oh, what if I can't do it? It's like, what if I get the job? What are the possibilities? Where can I make a difference? How can I do things? And you've got to do it with confidence. Because I don't care who you are. I don't care how great a leader you are. I don't care how great you are at your skill set, your AFSC. There's somebody better. There always will be. Unless you're like Michael Phelps, the swimmer or something. And so don't let your ego get in the way. That happens more with men, honestly, than with women. But you can go in and make a change and make a difference in the new shop, in the new role, in the new position that you're in. You can make a difference. And don't let anybody tell you that you can't. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go in and shake it all up just for the sake of shaking it up. But just because, we had a wing command change today. General Camacho did a phenomenal job, right? Most people will probably think that. I think he was well-liked and well-respected. He's gone. Now you got a new wing commander, okay? I fully expect that new wing commander is going to do some even better things. And guess what? When Colonel Walters leaves, the next person's going to do even better things. That's how it works. And so why can't it be one of you that makes the difference and does the better things? It can be. It can be. So again, the difference between men and women, right? I will tell you that, like I said earlier, sometimes you have to rein the men in. It's kind of a joke. It's not male bashing, by the way. That's just kind of a reality check. Men go through their lives and their careers without ever thinking about, what if I can't do it? It may be a fleeting thing in their mind, but they just go. And we women tend to sometimes sit back and go, Or you're perfectly content and happy where you are, and you're managing all the balls in the air, and you don't want to change it. You're comfortable, right? So the comfort zone. We find ourselves in the comfort zone, and we're happy and we're content, and we don't want to change things. And then that's kind of where we get stuck, if you will. Now, someone mentioned child care earlier. Who mentioned children? Raise your hand. I heard it over here. Okay, thank you. In many households, who do you think is still the most responsible for the care and feeding of the children? In many households, it's still the woman, right? The mother, the wife, the spouse. Even if you're both working full time, I can remember at one point I had this really, really sharp senior NCO. She was a senior master sergeant, eligible to retire, but great things. She had great things in her future, and it got to the point where she just could not manage. She was ready to give up the Air Guard and focus on the kids. She worked full-time and all. She was a DSG. And I tried so hard to keep her in because she had so much potential. And it's not that her husband wasn't supportive, he was, but she was the one that was responsible. And they happened to have younger children. She was the one responsible. If the kid got sick and couldn't go to daycare, guess who took off work? Okay? And then sometimes even with dual military couples right in the same wing. Now, for me, I see that as a very personal thing between that couple. They make those decisions. I'm not making judgment. But more often than not, it's the woman that might take on those additional responsibilities. And so that might impede your ability to move forward or your desire to move forward, if you will. By the way, I lost that senior master sergeant. She retired. And, when it was time, I shook her hand, thanked her for her service, and blessed her, and she went on about her life, and very proud of her service and proud of what she did. It just broke my heart a little bit that she could have contributed more, and she was that special. But that's okay. It's a personal choice. It's a life choice. But let's talk about the comfort zone. I got my notes here. I want to... The comfort zone is that area, that point in our life where we really are able to manage and we get comfortable and we're good to go. We don't want to shake the boat. We don't want to make the change. And so if you are a staff sergeant in the logistics readiness squadron in the supply, and that's your dream job and you love it and that's all you ever want to do, then again, thank you for your service and do all you can and be done with it then. But if you are a staff sergeant working in supply and logistics and you want to be the next or a commander someday or the chief or the senior NCO, then let's start making that path. And you're going to have to step outside the comfort zone. So let's talk a little bit about some ways that you do that. If their biggest obstacle is lack of opportunity, to me, you just find those opportunities and you move forward. But for women, if it's other stuff, how do you put yourself on the same plane as the men and say, well, it's just the opportunity. I have to wait for the opportunity. I used to always tell people, being promoted, getting the next job, all those things, all about timing and opportunity. So what if the opportunity is not there? How do you find the opportunities? What do you look for? We have any commanders in here? Got a couple commanders? Okay. Colonel Bean. She didn't start off as a commander, right? No. She did not. How did you become a commander? And by the way, why aren't you wearing colonel yet? I'm just asking. Just asking. I'm sure the paperwork's out there somewhere, right? Okay. Because, hey, let's face it, right? Additional responsibility comes rank at some point, and there's a process for that, so I'm teasing you. But so if Colonel Bean, if she was like me, when I enlisted in the Air Guard, I was young. I just knew I wanted something with the military. I enlisted. I had no idea what the job was I was enlisting for. I don't know. You want to be an air cargo specialist? Okay. And off I went, and never in a million years thought much past the next drill weekend. Well, as you get a little bit older in rank and in age, you start thinking a little bit more. And before I commissioned, I was a staff sergeant in the aerial port. You guys don't really have an aerial port here, but they have one up at the 136. That's the squadron that takes care of loading the planes and all that. Best job in the Air Force. You have a little bit of responsibility, right? But not too much. You can still work hard, but then have a beer out back with the boys, if you will. But like a lot of people that are somewhat goal-oriented, it's like okay, well maybe there is something better than staff sergeant in the aerial port. So did you grow up in the cop field?
I did not.
Okay. What was your initial AFSC?
It was 34N3, so it was...
Like I know what that is. I'm retired. Help me out here. Say again? Services. Okay. Services. FSS services. Great job. You get to do a lot of really cool stuff in services depending on where you're at, right? Well, how do you know that you want something different? Like you do with anything. You're bored, you're under challenge, you're just looking for something different. If you're going to make a career out of the Air Force, the Guard, you probably want to do, different things, maybe opportunities to travel, or maybe you want to touch the airplane or whatever it is, that makes you decide, ooh, I want to do something different. So you look around, well, what is there to do, right? If you're at that mid-level, do you continue up the enlisted side and you want to make the senior NCO, oh, I want to be a master sergeant. And then you're a master, oh, well, then I want to be a senior master. Oh, then I want to be a chief. Or like the big joke on the enlisted side, if you can't make tech sergeant, you go get a commission. Right? Now, back in my day, we also had buck sergeants. That's how old I am. So there was an additional year placed on us as requirements back in the day, but still. You can't get promoted into the enlisted corps. You go get a commission. So that's kind of what a lot of folks do. So talk to me about when you decided to make a change from services.
the civilian world for a long time. I was trying to get into companies and corporations without having already had a foot in the door, and I was surprised at how difficult that was. So I started foundationally working at this bike shop, even though I knew nothing about bikes. My ex, at that time, was like, hey, try this. And so he really encouraged me, kind of tying in maybe to what you're going to hit on a little bit later, and encouraged me to go into a field in which I had zero experience.
Perfect.
And so from there, I learned a lot about how to deal with people, all kinds of people, all walks of life with people, built skill sets up. And at the same time, didn't want to leave the military completely because I felt like I still had something to offer, so I joined the Guard, which was the best decision I ever made career-wise.
Okay.
And enjoyed it thoroughly ever since.
So started with a little dissatisfaction, maybe just looking for something else, right? The opportunity wasn't there in the civilian side for whatever reason. You couldn't get the job, and so you start looking other places. Somebody sees something in you and says, hey, what about? To me, that's the beauty of the Guard. Most of you have probably worked together for years in some cases. You know each other. Now, there's some good and bad to that, I know. It's just like a family, right? But there is somebody in this wing that sees something in every one of you and is willing and will help you if you ask. Or if you don't have to ask, they just have to know what you want to do. So you go around, so in my case, I'd gone to college and graduated. I decided I wanted to be a commissioned officer because I couldn't make rank on the enlisted side. And the pay was a little better in my mind. I kind of did like Colonel Bean. I looked and there was no, I almost signed up to be a missileer on the active duty. This was in the 80s, people, okay? So that's how, much I thought I wanted to be a commissioned officer. But there was a first sergeant in my Guard unit. I was still in the Guard that said, "You don't want to be a missileer. You want to be a commissioned officer in the Guard." Well, there's no opportunities. It'll come. Well, what if? And then the self-doubt came in, right? Well, what if? And he was just like, do the things that you need to do to be ready, whatever that is. And if you don't know, if you're sitting there and you think, well, I want to do this, but I don't know even how to go about going and getting there. One of the things that's beautiful about the military is there are biographies out there on all of your senior leaders, most of your leaders and senior enlisted leaders. It's a trick of the trade. You go and look at somebody's bio, their full bio, and you find out, what did they do different? What schools did they go to? What training courses did they take? How did they get there? What does it look like? And you'd be surprised what you can learn and what boxes you can check just in preparation for. And they're going to help you where you are, too, especially if you're in leadership courses or that kind of stuff. But they'll also help you take that next step. And what you want to do is you find out, I wonder what that course is. I took a joint qualified officer course. I was one of the first ones in the Texas Air Guard to do it. Not the first, one of the first. I didn't know anything about it until I saw on then Colonel McNabb's resume or bio that she had gone through this JQO course. And I'm like, I love school anyway. I love courses. I'm like, what's that? And I applied for it, and nobody else was, so I got in. And by the way, it's okay to be the only choice. It is. It's okay. If I'm the only one and I get to go because of it, so be it. It's not self-doubt, I only got to go because I was the only one. That went through my mind several times. If somebody else would have applied, they would have gotten the seat and not me. But you know what? Nobody else applied. I did. I was smart enough to figure out, I think this course is going to be necessary for officers in the future. I don't know how necessary. I've got the time. I've got the will. I'm going to apply. Fast forward 6 years later, it became very competitive. Very competitive. But I just, got in at the right time, I guess. But that self-doubt was there to begin with. At the time, there wasn't an opportunity. I wasn't going to be the next whatever at that time. But I was starting to check the boxes, right? Some of us have to check more boxes than other people. That's the reality of the workforce. It's the reality of the Air Force, the Air National Guard. It's the reality of corporate America. It's just the reality. Some of us have to check more boxes than the other. Now, I'm single. I'm a lifelong single. I've never been married, but I've had a steady guy for, God, we might as well be married. And he's a good dude. He went to college. He got his bachelor's degree, went through junior ROTC, joined the Army, did his 4 years in the Army, got out. You know, Carl is tall, good-looking guy, especially when he was younger. Still now, but you know. Played football in high school and college, you know, could talk to anybody. I mean, everybody liked him, right? Didn't know a stranger. Carl moved up in his professional life because of who he knew. He'd come and talk to you, and you'd be friends with him, but, oh, you own a cell phone company, or you own a movie store, and next thing you know, hey, well, come work with me. And this is how Carl progressed his professional career. All of his box checking ended when he was about 25 years old. He never went back to college. He didn't have an advanced degree. He didn't, he did all the boxes done. When I was progressing, because again, I've known him for many, many years, and I'd go take this JQO course, and it would take me away, and why do you do that? You don't have to do that. Nobody else is doing it. It's like, because I need to be prepared. I need to check that box, because I have to be competitive. You know, if somebody else has that same box checked or not, I need to be competitive. And it was hard for Carl to understand, because he was the type that really did progress in his professional career because of who he was. He was just that guy. We all know him, right? I call him charmed. I'm not saying his life was easy. I'm just saying he had a very different path than me. I went back to graduate school. I took every course you could, conceive of in the military. On the civilian side, I'd studied this, I studied that. Some of it's because I like to do it, but I checked every box and then some. And the reason I did that is because when the opportunity came, whatever that opportunity was, if I wasn't chosen for it, I wanted the person to be able to look me in the eye and say, you're not the right person for this job because. And it wasn't going to be because I wasn't ready. It wasn't going to be because I didn't check a box. Now, I progressed in the Air National Guard. There were many opportunities I wanted when I was younger that were not open. This is how old I am, because women weren't allowed in those jobs back then, right? That's not as much a barrier now, but it still is. But if you can't go through it, go over it, go under it, go around it, right? So what's a different path to get there? What's the other door that's opened? I'm looking for the opportunity. Forget the self-doubt. I want the opportunity. And I'm just like everybody else in the room, just waiting for the right time and the right opportunity. And so that's how you move through life, trying to check the boxes, being prepared. And when I said that some of us have to check more boxes than others, I'm going to tell you why. And I'm not going to talk about whether it's fair or not, good, bad, right, or wrong. It has changed some over the years. But if you've got, in the Air Force or the Air Guard, if you've got a pilot who's rated, and he's got the Universal Management Badge, right, the wings, there's every chance and every opportunity for that person to become a wing commander. That opportunity wasn't open for me at the time. I was never going to be a wing commander. So quit crying over it and figure out something else, right? Now, I think the wing command is the best job in the Air Force, without question. But it was not going to happen for me, not because I wasn't smart, not because I was a woman, not because, it was simply because I was not a rated officer. And at that time, that's the rules. It has changed some since then, as you guys know. There are some wing command positions where you can be a wing commander without being rated. But my point is, okay, well, I can't do that, so how else can I get to where I need to be? So don't let what you perceive as potential barriers stop you from moving forward. So look for the opportunities, get yourself prepared, and get yourself a mentor. I'm going to come back to the men in the room. I really am sincere that women cannot make it in this world without the support of the men in our lives. And I'm not talking just boyfriends or husbands or that, but our work companions as well. And it's so true the other way too. Men, you really can't make it without the support of the women in your life, right? So when you think about that, in the military, push gender aside and just say, you're my wingman, and we're going to get through this together and find the right mentor for you. And that mentor doesn't have to be the same gender, doesn't have to be in the same AFSC, doesn't have to be the same age. It can be anybody. It doesn't have to be somebody that is above you in rank. It can be somebody that's below you in rank. And let them help you with the different opportunities that are out there. And when you do that, then we're all successful, right? Not just the women, but the men. So, I see several men in here and quite a few ladies too, but I want to open up the floor and talk a little bit about your ideas about what you think this group and Women Empowering Women, what it really means. And if you have any questions for me, about what I've done, because, I'm older than you guys. I joined the military in the early 80s. I mean, it was very different back then. But some of the same challenges exist. They're just in a different format. So, who's the highest ranking person in the room, enlisted? Is it Chief Maxey? Is she still in here? Okay. And only because she's the command chief, right? How many other chiefs in the room? Okay, quite a few. Good deal. So you guys became chiefs all on your own, right? You decided the day you enlisted, you said, I'm going to be a chief someday and get out of my way, and made it all on your own, right? No, of course not. Of course not. But you were smart enough that you didn't have to go off and get a commission because you were able to make tech sergeant, right? So what about, are there any officers in the room? I know, of course, Colonel Bean, okay. How many of those officers are former enlisted? That's the beauty of the Guard, isn't it? That's the beauty of the Guard. We have a lot of officers that are former enlisted. So, again, I make a joke. It's not because we weren't smart enough to make tech sergeant. That was just personal to my case. But, so what the Guard provides you is a lot of different opportunities to move different ways and go different places. So, what kind of questions do you have as far as what role does a woman play in making sure that the other women that we are around are successful? Are we good at that, by the way, as a gender? Sometimes. So here's what I used to think the reason was back in the day. I used to think it was because men grew up and they were used to team sports, team playing, team whatever, and they were socialized in teamwork. And, if you're playing football, you're rooting on your quarterback, right? And women, not so much. A little different now because women are in sports and stuff. But I think men just are a little more socially conditioned to be team players and to rely on and know that they've got each other's backs. Women were just not used to it. We have to work at it. And sometimes we do the opposite, don't we? We try to bring somebody down because we're envious, jealous, mad, whatever. And we've got to stop that. We've got to definitely focus on, I don't care who you are, where you come from, what your background is, what your, anything. We've got to pump each other up. And you've got to make a conscious effort. And it's amazing to me how simple it is when you walk by anybody and say, oh, your hair is gorgeous. I love it. Oh, look, your eye makeup. And it doesn't have to be physical stuff. What you talked about the other day, it just struck me right here. Wow, I want to listen to you again. Your voice, right? It takes a conscious effort, but it's so easy. And that's true of anybody, anytime, for any reason. Those simple compliments and they're sincere. People know if you're not sincere, by the way, but if they're sincere and you really mean it, it brings people up, no matter where they're from or what they're doing. And so that's one thing we have to do is make sure that we compliment our fellow airmen on the things that they do well. And don't focus on the things they don't do well, maybe. If you're a leader or a supervisor and you've got an airman that works for you that maybe is not 1,000% where they need to be, performance-wise, maybe they're, again, if you focus on the negative, you aren't doing this, then that's where the focus is. If you focus on the positive but work on the negative, then it's like, you can talk to anybody. I love listening to you talk. You bring people up all day. Let's get you writing a letter the way it needs to be written. Or whatever. focus on the positive. What do they do well? Because I promise you, every bad airman that ever existed, there's something of good quality about that airman. You said maybe you have to dig a little deeper. Okay? And the whole idea about, trying to treat everybody fair if you're a leader or a supervisor is hard, because everybody's issues and problems are their own. But you still have to do it. So somebody tell me an area where they think they can improve in working and empowering other women to do whatever. Let's talk about something else.
I've got one, ma'am.
Yes, please. Yes, Chief.
So, there's two attributes in this room right now. And everyone of you have. We're all common together. Man, you were back in the day. What's the one thing we have in common?
Wear the uniform.
Your uniform. What's the other thing? You all believe red. The reason why I say that is because those two bonds were all equal. And then from there, each one of you go with your guard story, because each one of you got fantastic guard stories, no matter what A and C. And when I say that is, we'll talk about, I'll say airmen power everything. Revel in successes of team members, right? Lift them up and learn from what their successes, and maybe help with a self-reflection of what they need. Maybe a team member that they can benefit. Those are the areas that I think that we can really do better as team members of TMD to rise to that next level. Because no matter if you're an ANC, you're a second lieutenant, 20 years, you're probably a colonel if you stay the force, maybe senior master chief. The way you get there is investing in your team members and learning from your team members. And some things you're going to learn that maybe that's not what that's for you. That's okay. Those are some areas now I think that can really benefit as we empower our people.
I think that's great. I think as a leader, the most empowering thing you can do is to make sure that when you're gone, when you've moved on to the next person, that it's just a smooth running ship. You got people prepared to take your spot, right? Some of us get really, really protective of our jobs, and we don't want somebody else to have our jobs. And let's be honest, we're not going to be in whatever job you're in, you're not going to be in there forever. But the best thing you can do is prepare that next person to do your job and be able to do it even better. So that's good, Chief. I used to tell, and I was talking to somebody this summer about how do you get noticed. I tell the story that I was a young officer. I'd gotten commissioned. I was a young officer in the aerial port. A captain, I think, just doing my thing, enjoying it, drill status, had my civilian career going, enjoyed the guard, but was just happy camper. I would almost, even though I was an officer and there weren't that many, I would probably guarantee you that at that time my group commander, not my squadron commander, but my group commander didn't know who I was, had no clue. It was a big group, lots of people, lots of officers. I was doing nothing that was necessarily outstanding. I was doing my job and doing it well, but so was everybody else, right? And probably would never have gotten noticed until an external event happened. I'm going to age myself again. And that external event was Hurricane Katrina. So for those of you that are too young to remember, I think everyone should have been born, right? What year is this? Anyway, Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans area and whatnot, and they activated the guard and sent some of us down to do with, we didn't really know what. It was a very, very chaotic time. And we actually went down as a security force to start with from the wing I was in. So we had our weapons and stuff, because there was a lot of chaos going on at that time in New Orleans, and I don't know what we were going to do, but that's what we were sent down range for. And we were sitting on Bell Chase on the tarmac trying to get some sleep with 50 million airplanes landing and taking off. And my chief at the time and I were sitting there, and I was a major, and it was like, we don't need to be down here doing security. We need to be down here unloading these airplanes. That's our job. That's our AFSC, you know. So we broke away from the group, and we said, we're going to go over and take over this air terminal. Which, when I say take over, I said, because there was nobody there. Everyone had evacuated and stuff like that. This was a Navy base, but we went in and we just said, this is what we know how to do. And we put people up, we put them on shifts, we found radios, we found equipment. they had packed everything up in the hangars because the hurricane was horrendous, and you got to have equipment to run out on the flight line. So we had people on bomb loaders that we had found and golf carts, but that's what that base needed, and we set up a fully functioning aerial port during the Hurricane Katrina time. And at the time, I mean, we moved more personnel and cargo in that 16 days in New Orleans than the entire Berlin airlift of World War II. It was phenomenal, the work that about 42 people did, plus 16 Navy guys that were there with us. And because of the disaster, because of the opportunity, I didn't go down there thinking anything like that. I thought I was just going to be another person, handing out weapons and whatnot. But it was such a chaotic time, and there were so many things going on that, you got noticed a little bit. And when I got noticed, I mean, I didn't think anything about it. When I came home and I went back to my job and did my thing. But you started getting a few more opportunities, because it doesn't matter your rank. You can do this. I saw you that, somebody recognized something. And so what I tell people is, if you know somebody's kind of got their eye on you, because you know if you're doing good work, right? Somebody notices or recognizes you, then be that person's go-to person. The most successful people in any career oftentimes do the hard things that nobody else wants to do before they move on to the next step. I'm not talking dangerous, illegal. I'm just talking, be the person that person can say, you know what, I need such and such done. Who can do it for me? Be that person. With a caveat, though. Don't be that person's go-to person if you can't go to that person. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody's abusing you, but never gives you the time of day or the opportunity, you back it off a little bit. That's not the person that's going to help you. That's the person that's going to wear you down. Now, sometimes some of the work is wear down work, but if you can't count on that person as a leader or a supervisor or a mentor, then back off. But be the go-to person if you can, and if it's healthy. And you're going to start checking more boxes and being noticed a lot more. This is a wing of 1,100 people. It's hard for Staff Sergeant Jane to be noticed sometimes. It starts at the first line supervisor level, and then the squadron goes up, but it's hard. But if you do really cool things, and there's a lot of neat things that you guys do in this wing that I really like. I like to see, like the ceremonies today. There were people of all ranks and from all different AFSCs out there helping, doing stuff that's not in their job, right? I don't know how to write a speech. I don't know how to MC an event. Yeah, you do. And then, so the opportunities are there if you've got to step up. The difference between the Air Guard and the Army Guard, and I got to see this when I was up at state headquarters, is the Air Guard, we're military, we get it. Rank matters. It does, right? Protocol makes a difference. But if I need something done, I don't have to look at the chief to get it done if I know that Senior Airman Jane can do it. Either because she's smart, she's excited, she's young, she's hungry, she does it in the civilian, whatever the world, we can say, I just need a volunteer. And if it's a senior airman or a two-striper, come on. Army's not smart enough to do that sometimes. They're so focused on rank, and then their young talent gets pushed aside, right? Just because, well, you can't do that, you're a private. Well, you're a specialist. I need at least a major or above. No, you don't. You just need somebody that can do the job, right? So what else? What else about empowering? Yes, ma'am.
And I think that it's important to have a mentor, but it's also important to mentor and to do that deliberately. Not just, I supervise you, I'll help you out, but actually pick someone that you see future potential in and try to round the edges off of them and get them to where they can get to the next step. I think that deliberate mentorship at any level, so even if you are, an E4, there's still somebody
Sure.
So even though it's my opportunity to mentor that individual, I know I've gotten a lot out of that mentorship as well.
Beautiful. Thanks, Colonel. I mean, that's perfect, right? Mentoring goes both ways, goes up and down, goes sideways. It's formal, it's informal. You know, if there's somebody that you admire, no matter what their rank or gender or where their background is, try to hook up with that person, you know. Don't scare them away. Don't stalk. But, I mean, most of us, it's a compliment if you ask me, hey, you know, can you help me with something, or can you tell me about, it's a compliment. And mentoring doesn't have to be hard work or take a lot of time. Now, there are some mentoring programs where it is formalized and there's very specific things you do. But most of us, we learn by watching and seeing what other people do. You know, back to my friend Carl, who he just made his way up just because he was just that outspoken person. And I can remember I would watch him when we'd go to like a social event, and he was so at ease with talking with people. He could talk to anybody. I'm basically a shy person. I'm comfortable standing over in the corner with a drink in my hand, right? But I would watch him and I would see how easy it would be for him and how he did it and things like that. He was my boyfriend, but he was also my mentor in social situations. It's kind of weird, I know, but find your mentors where they are. You know, again, it doesn't have to be somebody in your shop, or it can be anybody. It can be in the corporate world, the civilian world. My best friend has never been in the military. She's a president of a community college in Texas. We met when we were in our mid-30s or whatever. Totally different. I mean, if I'd have met her when I was in college, we probably wouldn't have been friends, to be honest, because we had such different, you know, socializations back then. But I learned more from her just watching her. I don't even have to ask her, just watching what she does and how she works. And the beauty of it is she's so different than me. We're almost total opposites in how we approach things. And now there's some days that she drives me crazy. And there's some days that I know I drive her crazy. But we learn from each other. And we learn how to deal with situations. And even though she's in the civilian sector and I was in the military, guess what? Sometimes when you have an issue with personnel, it's the same. You know, it's the same. Civilian world, maybe you can fire somebody easier than in the military. But, you know, and Brenda used to always tell me, well, you can just, you know, command someone to do something. Well, not really. But, I mean, it's different. But yeah, the mentoring is so critically important. Now, here's the thing with mentoring. You got to find someone that's honest with you, that will be honest with you and then will tell you exactly what you need to do to improve or be better. And you, honest but not mean, or if they're being mean to you, if they're pulling you down, that's not a mentor. That's somebody that's stepping on you for some reason. But be prepared for that criticism. Okay, because it'll come, and you gotta, you know, gump it up and, oh, I gotta do something. Don't take it personal and move on. You know, if it is personal and it hurts your feelings, then, you know, go to the ladies' room, close the stall, and cry your eyes out for a couple of minutes, and then wash your face and get up and let's go, you know. I've always said, don't let success go to your head, right? But don't let criticism or failure go to your heart. Because we can get the big head when we're doing good things. But if somebody either critiques you or criticizes, whatever, or if you fail at something, I mean, that hurts here. It's a whole lot harder to get over a broken heart than it is, you know, well, for me. So don't be afraid to fail, but don't let it get to your heart. I think we are getting there. And I think we have. So for me, from what I've seen in the Air Guard, it's because we have people that have talents and backgrounds from everywhere. That's the beauty of the Guard, like I said earlier. So if you have an idea, I want to hear it. It doesn't matter what your rank is. It doesn't matter what your background. What's your idea? Now, as a leader, I may or may not take you up on that for many different reasons. But I want to hear the idea. If you have a safe place to have someone get their ideas out, And even if they are critiqued and they don't let it go to their heart, right, then you're going to have people that are going to be more open. Now, I will tell you, it depends on your leadership. Not everyone is open to hearing others. If you were in the Army, I'd caution you a little bit more because, again, they're much more traditional in their rank structure and that sort. But in the Air Guard, if you're professional and it's helpful, it's not, well, Wing Commander, I think that's a stupid idea. Here's what you should do. No, we don't want to do that. But, hey, sir, I've got an idea. Hey, ma'am, I've got an idea. What if, can we do this? I mean, think about how this group got started, right? It sprung off of some other things. And it took one brave person, or maybe not so brave, but one person with the passion to say, let's do this. And gather some support. Let's research it, poll people, whatever. And let's go to the wing commander and say, we want to do this. How can the wing commander say no? How can they say, well, okay, so you want to get a bunch of people together, and you want to mentor, and you want to talk about successes, and you want to do this, and everybody wants to do it. No. Come on. Box them in a corner, right? And so, yeah, so I think, and the reason I say we're getting there, because it's not everywhere. It's not everywhere. It depends on the wing. It depends on the squadron. It depends on leadership. I mean, we still have some old school people around. You guys are blessed. Most of your senior leaders are fairly young now, and us old dinosaurs are dying away. But it's still, it takes a generation for culture to change, a minimum of a generation. So, Chief Maxey, I don't know if you had a daughter old enough to join the Guard, by the time she's a chief, whatever is happening today will change. That's how long it takes. A generation. That doesn't mean we can't peck away at the change on the way there, but for everything to change, it takes a generation. I think what you guys ought to do is look at the Space Force. It's the newest military. We make fun of it, right? Because we were made fun of. The Air Force was made fun of back in the day. But now we got a kid's sister or brother, right? Woo! But watch them. Watch what they're not going to get entangled with. Now it may be very different than what you're used to, and especially the sister services will make fun because they're a bunch of undisciplined, whatever. But watch what they can do, because they're new. They're not tied to such long-standing traditions that they can't break free of that. Tradition is good, and it has a place in our culture and our society, but it will tie you up and not let you go outside. You can get so married to tradition that you can't see. You can get so ingrained in that you can't see the damage that's being done. I'll give you an idea. When I was young, I was very protocol-oriented, especially as an enlisted person. My unit at the time, I was in the 136th Air Wing, but we had a unit up on Shepherd Air Force Base. Shepherd Air Force Base is the Air Force's training facility, right? Very protocol-oriented and all that. And I was all about, calling everybody by their rank and their last name. Chief Maxey, Colonel Robeson. That was just how you did it. That was protocol. I should never call any of my superiors any different. And by the way, I still kind of believe that. Again, we are a military organization. But even with my peers and people below me in rank. And finally, and I became commissioned, and the same thing continued. And I think I was probably a captain at the time. And this chief pulled me aside. I'll never forget it. Because I thought what I was doing was respectful. If I always address you by your rank and name, that's professional, right? That's what we do. I don't care if you're Guard, Reserve, whatever. This chief pulled me aside, and he said, ma'am, I know you respect that and your protocol, and he goes, but do you know what people want to hear more than anything? They want to hear you say their first name. They want to hear that number one, you know their first name, and number two, that you're personal enough that you took the time to know that person. Because it's real easy for me to go, Master Sergeant I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. Cherubin. Is that close? You see it, right? And we have to do it sometimes. You walk up to somebody and you see the eyes go down real quick. It happens. But when I really know you, what's your first name? Celeste. If I come up to, hey, Celeste, so good to see you, and it may be weird at first. And Celeste may not call me by my first name because of the protocol, but it's certainly appropriate for me to call other people by their first name. The other thing I learned is if you call them just by their last name in the Air Force, that's an insult. If I just said, hey, Whoppy Pa. In the Army, if you call somebody just by their rank, it's an insult. Hey, Sergeant Major. That's the insult. It's different. So you learn these things as you go up. So, you know, you're never going to go wrong with calling somebody by their rank and their last name, because we are a military organization. But if you have the opportunity to know somebody enough to be able to call them by their first name, if you're comfortable with that. If you're not, that's okay. Just be aware that in some places, in some cultures, you might be insulting somebody with ever. I never knew till I got to state headquarters that if I called an Army person by their rank that it was an insult. We learn a lot, don't we? Other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Sergeant Miller, Command Post. Real quick, I don't want to take a lot of your time, but you talked about the importance of having a mentor and us supporting each other as airmen. One of the biggest obstacles I feel, correct me ladies if I'm wrong, is women supporting other women. I mean, it's so competitive that maybe they feel that, you know, if I don't support her, maybe that's better for me. That's how I feel one of the biggest obstacles for me.
Ladies, would you agree? In some cases. In some cases. I'll tell you this. Again, back to what I said earlier, we women we didn't grow up and be trained to work as a team. We're pretty independent for the most part. We take care of ourselves. But you're right. If there are few and far places to go, say there's a squadron commander position open, and there's 10 applicants, and they're all good, and there's 8 males and 2 females. The females, and I might be wrong, the females are going to look and see who all's competitive, but they're really going to eye that second lady. Because you know what? There may only be room for one of us. Men don't always have that thing. Sometimes men of color do, you know, because the opportunities are so few and far between. So does that mean that I have to be better than that person? If it's a competitive job, the short answer is yes, you do. The long answer is, but that doesn't mean you have to bring them down. You can be just as good and your credentials just as good, and if that person gets selected over you, you can be happy for that person. And you can say, what can I do to help you? What can I do to make your job easier, right? Or you can be, I could have done better than her. Because we've all lost out on jobs, right, to other people. So, but I think sometimes women, we do see each other as competition, and we should. It's okay. Competition's okay. But you can't take it personal if somebody is selected over you. I will close with this, though, and this is, I'm looking in this room of ladies. I want to tell you what used to drive me crazy, and kind of still does as a female. As a female in a predominantly male-dominated Air Force, still, and in male-dominated career fields. Ladies, you have to stand on your own. I think everyone in this room, you wouldn't be here if you didn't know that. You have to know your job. You have to do it well. You have to pull your weight. You have to be a team member. In the old days, 20 years ago, I would have said, you need to be one of the boys. 20 years ago, that was true. I needed to be one of the boys. I was in a male-dominated career field. I didn't want to be seen as a woman. I wanted to be seen as an airman. To do that, I had to be like the boys. I don't think that's true anymore. I think women can be women, and we need to be women. But here's what drives me crazy. And you guys can, shoot me if you need to. Don't be that girly girl that needs help carrying their luggage because you pack too much. Don't be that girl. Because there will be some people, there will be some men, and even some women who are chivalrous enough to say, let me help you with that. And they'll help you with that. And in their mind, they're going, man, she can't even carry her own luggage. Now, if you're hurt or something like that, but there was a young lady in my squadron, and we were the same rank, senior airman at the time, and I'll never forget her. She got by getting other people to do things for her. She was too girly girl, and so and guess what? She learned to expect that because, I always made sure I could carry what I had to, pack if I was traveling or whatever. Carry your own weight, do your own job. But, you got to throw those pallet nets over the pallet. And I was a little bitty skinny thing back then. But I was crawling up and getting it done. And her name was Lisa. She'd be like, and then here come, Staff Sergeant Joe. Let me help you with that, Lisa. And she'd be like, oh, thank you. But what happened was that staff sergeant didn't respect that person because she wasn't pulling her weight. She wasn't doing the job. And they may have still helped her, and she may have gotten through life, but she wasn't going to make it. She wasn't going to survive. So, and I use that because we're talking about women in here, but it's the same as men. Men will cast out the guys that don't pull their weight too, right? So it's not like men are looking for women to pull their weight. And everyone's got to pull their weight. Everyone's got to pull their weight. So, be proud of who you are, women. Ask for help of the men if you need it. They're here to support you. Men, the same way. Be a woman, but don't be girly. Don't be girly. Not on the job. And if you see a girly, try to mentor her out of that. And please, I'm not saying don't be a woman. I'm just saying, look, here's how you can succeed. And it starts with being able to pull your own weight, doing your own thing, doing your own job. I know we're running out of time. Any other questions? I can keep going. I do appreciate being here, and what I talked about, my opinions are my own. I spent almost 38 years in the military, and when I started and when I ended was very different. It was very different for me as a person. It was very different for me as a woman. Very different. But you learn as you go, and you figure out what works and what doesn't, and you look for people to help you get there. Because I promise you, the day that I enlisted in the Air National Guard, August 6, 1983, I never in a million years thought I would be a 2-star general sitting up at state headquarters. Never. Never even entered I didn't know there was a state headquarters. I didn't know there was a wing. I was just, in the first few years I was in, I was just living the life, having a good time. But, and the first time somebody made a comment to me that made me think it might be possible, the self-doubt took over right away. Well, I can't fail if I don't try, right? You also can't succeed if you don't try. So I was letting that failure, that heartbreak sometimes drive me. I don't want to fail again. I just won't do it, and I'll be safe. When in reality, you need it. Because that person who first spoke to me about it was the person who was going to help me get there. And he told me some things that I needed to do that I didn't want to do. One of the first things he told me, and I think I was a major at the time, 15 years ago, he said, you have to deploy. And I'm like, I don't deploy. The Air Force, it's different, right? We don't get to go in teams a lot, except maybe if you're a cop. Sometimes the cops go out in squads or whatever, but especially as an officer, you go by yourself. It's like, I'm the girl that wants to be in the corner. I'm like, I don't want to deploy. Afghanistan, Iraq, no, that's dangerous. But he wasn't asking me. He was telling me that that's a box you need to check. And everybody else is doing it. And now, if my time would have come, I would have gone. Don't question that I wouldn't have done it. But to volunteer is different. And so I remember going home and talking to my mom, and my mom, of course, was like, what? That's dangerous. And as it turned out, I did deploy. It was a pretty lush job compared to what a lot of you guys have to go into. I wasn't on a FOB. I was on a headquarters staff. But I went by myself. I didn't know anybody. We had some training ahead of time in Norway. That's what got me. They said, you'll go 2 weeks in Norway for some training. I'm like, I'm there. They forgot to say, followed by combat airman skills training and 9 months in Afghanistan. I just heard the Norway and I was out. But yeah, So I didn't want to do it. I guarantee if I had not done that, then that door would have closed. You know, maybe another door would have opened somewhere else. I don't know, because I didn't, you know. But I was scared. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to leave my family. All the reasons that a lot of you don't want to deploy. I had the same reasons. On the other hand, of course, I mean, pride and mission, right? I want to go, I want to do these good things. So I ended up deploying. I went to Afghanistan. I was on the ISAF mission with NATO. So I wasn't assigned to U.S. forces. I was assigned to ISAF. A lot of Army. The Army, you know, ran the mission, if you will. I was on headquarters. General Dunford was the ISAF commander at the time. Incredible experience. I worked my shop. I supervised 9 different people. I was a colonel when I actually deployed, and they were all from different countries. El Salvador, Australia, the Netherlands, France, Belgium, I can't remember, Somalia. I mean, they were from everywhere. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. Other than about 2 weeks in, we had a little crisis on the ground. And I'm a logistics officer. I'm an Air Force logistics officer. By the way, it's different than an Army logistics officer. And I can remember I got a tasking down, and I was like, they got the wrong person in this job. They need to send me back home. Self-doubt. I was it. And I'm like, this is, you know, in the Air Force, we don't figure out how much fuel it takes for convoys to go across the country. What? You know, fly them out. Fly them out. Well, but that self-doubt got in, and it took a couple of days, and, you know, and it's like, no, I'm it. So I learned how to do it. And guess what? I had a whole team of people that if I'd have been too egotistical or arrogant to go to my lieutenant colonel or major counterpart from the Netherlands and say, help me understand this, I'd have failed. But I did, because I didn't know. I didn't know how to compute how much fuel you need for vehicles in a convoy going across Afghanistan over 70, you know. I didn't know. I didn't know where to start. But I could tell you how much fuel to put on an airplane and how long, you know, so figuring out what you need to do, doing the things that you don't always want to do, being the go-to person, you know, getting it done. Don't be afraid to ask. And while I was there, even though I didn't know anybody, I still have contact with 2 people that I met while I was there. One was a lieutenant colonel from the Netherlands, female, and the other one was a male from Croatia. I still talk to them, mainly over, you know, email and stuff to this day, because they were such great help to me. And I like to think, and I to them. You know, so you go into a place, you've never been there, you're scared, you don't know what to do, you're in a different job, you know, you're with people you've never met, they're all from all over the place, you know, and you're the boss. That's scary. But that was the first step. And then after that, the doors start opening. You know, and so if you've never deployed, don't feel bad. That's not what I'm trying to get at you. Because some career fields you just don't deploy. When he told me I needed to deploy, the chances of me actually getting an assignment were pretty rare, because they don't send higher ranking officers into the field a whole lot. The only reason I got to go is because there was a NATO mission open. If there would have been a U.S. mission, active duty is not going to pull a guard colonel over there. Any of you flyers in the room know that, right? If you deploy, they want an active duty, you know, squadron commander, and you know, you can have a guard OPSO or a reserve OPSO, but it's a little different now. But so do the things that are sometimes hard to do. I know we got to go. I really do appreciate you guys being here, and please, I love to talk to people. I love to mentor. I love to sit down with people and say, hey, what do you want to do, and just talk about paths. You know, how do you get there? What are some of the obstacles? So if you ever want to do that, I'm on the Women in Empowerment Facebook page. I signed up, so I'm on that. But I'll put my email on there if anybody wants to email me or call me. I love this kind of stuff. I love to talk. And it's easier to talk one-on-one, honestly. But, you know, look around the room. You know, if you see somebody in the room today that you don't know but you admire for whatever reason, maybe you like the way they're sitting in their chair. Maybe you like, you know, or maybe you've heard that, hey, that guy's a really good whatever, or that gal can do this. Then shake their hand on the way out and make a new friend. And, you know, start learning what everybody else does and where they go, and how can you support them and how can they support you.